Yesterday, we saw the first big payoff for the CHIPS and Science Act, the big semiconductor bill that Congress passed in August of last year, with the federal government providing $35 million to help BAE Systems boost production at their New Hampshire factory. It makes chips for fighter planes. I expect to be the first of many as the Commerce Department sorts the world of subsidy applications. What matters, though, is that the money's finally being spent on shoring up our domestic semiconductor capacity, and I love it. I got a chance to sit down with U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo earlier today to learn more about the CHIPS Act and our tricky trading relationship with China. Take a look. Secretary Raimondo, welcome back to Mad Money.
Great to be with you, as always.
Well, thank you so much. I want to tell you that I've been very impressed with the implementation of the CHIPS law. I want to talk about this new plan, BAE plant in New Hampshire. How did it come about? What does it mean for America?
It's huge. This is huge. So we've entered a new phase of implementation for chips. We're putting money out the door, backing some of the best companies in the world to expand in the United States. This particular announcement that I made yesterday in New Hampshire will allow BAE to quadruple the number of chips that they make in America, and those are the chips that go into F-15s, F-35s, satellites, all kinds of military equipment that, you know, Jim, need to be made in the United States.
Well, I think it's incredibly important. I found myself thinking, where are some of the chips coming from right now that you're replacing?
You know, China, Taiwan, other parts of Asia. That's what keeps us up at night, and that's why we're working so fast to make sure we expand chip production right here in the United States. As you know, we have some of the best chip design companies in America, best chip software companies in America, but we have to get back into the business of making and packaging chips in America.
Well, look, I think the intellectual property is American. I think that others want our intellectual property, particularly the Chinese. So let's discuss what happened at your dinner in San Francisco, because I was hoping that there would be a cessation of what I would regard as being ill-advised acts by the Chinese. But I'm not sure there has been.
Yeah, well, we weren't hoping for magic, Jim. We were just hoping for a little bit of progress, and I think we got a little bit of progress. President Biden had, I think, a very productive, constructive, candid, direct discussion with President Xi. I was able to be part of that meeting. I spent hours with my counterpart, and we said to them, listen, actions speak louder than words. President Xi and his ministers said to us they want more foreign direct investment. They want U.S. companies to do business there. We said to them, show us. You know, don't tell us, show us. Right? Don't rip off our IP. Have a regulatory environment that's fair and not arbitrary and capricious. Don't target U.S. companies. And so we began the dialogue, which is a good step. Nothing good will happen if we don't even talk. We've seen a little progress. You saw the VMware acquisition by Broadcom approved. You see MasterCard being allowed to do business there, expand their digital business. But we have a long way to go, Jim, and I think, you know, they need to show us if they're serious that they want us to do business there, and that means protecting IP.
Madam Secretary, what I'm concerned about is, for instance, right after the dinner, we spoke with Palo Alto Networks and CrowdStrike. Those are the two most sophisticated companies in terms of cybersecurity. And both of them said there's actually no let-up whatsoever in hacking after that dinner.
I can't say that I'm surprised. I mean, I do hear from CEOs. I meet with a couple of CEOs every week who've either just come back from China or call me or thinking of going. And they report similarly, that it's getting harder to do business in China, not easier. But we're not going to let up. You know, Jim, as you know, I'm a dog on a bone.
Oh, I know that.
U.S. business deserves an advocate. They deserve a fair shake. We're not asking for any special treatment. We just want a level playing field, and we're going to keep making the case.
But they're not used to someone like you. You know business. You're tough. You're not willing to give in. You're not trying to get into that market so much as to protect our country and get into our market. And I can tell what is the first priority. And you're very clear. And they don't know what to do with you.
I get that a lot, Jim. I don't know. I get that a lot from a lot of people. But what you said is exactly right. National security first. I'm not negotiating. When I was there, they asked me to water down our export controls on semiconductors. No, that's an easy answer. No, we're not going to do that. But we expect you to treat U.S. companies fairly. You know, we don't expect you to raid a U.S. business, arrest people, and not explain why. That's not fair. And so we're going to just continue to make the case.
Well, one of the things that, look, let's go back to the intellectual property. What do we really do well in this country? We create. Now, it's implemented and made in other places, but I was shocked to see, there's a Deutsche Bank piece that came out yesterday. They do fine work. The U.S. has increased selling to China dramatically in 2023 to up 46%. For wafer equipment. Now, how do we know that they're not getting current and leading edge and that it's trailing edge?
Well, what you said, you should come work with me, Jim, because this is what I obsess about every day. This is what we track. We track every single piece of equipment. We enforce every single export control with our allies, in this case, especially the Dutch and the Japanese and the Koreans. And we have to make certain that all they're getting is equipment to make, older versions of chips, not the EUV equipment, which will allow them to make the cutting-edge, leading-edge chips.
Well, that brings me right to Nvidia, which I think is the jewel of the crown of our semiconductor companies. Of late, there's been talk about export controls and what can be sold. And I want to be sure that some people, I think, are overstating your comments from a couple Saturdays ago about what you allow Nvidia to do. Do you think Nvidia is a good actor? Do you think they're willing to work with you on export restrictions? Are you happy with what they're doing?
Yes, yes, and yes. It's a great American company. We talk to them frequently. They don't want to do anything that violates export controls. Look, Jim, right now, America leads the world in AI. Let's remember that. It's the U.S. private sector innovation ecosystem that allows us to lead the world in AI. It doesn't mean they can do whatever they want. Obviously, they have to play by the rules, et cetera. But we also have to enable them to be competitive, be productive, make money, sell what they can to other countries, including China, as long as it doesn't interfere with our national security. I know that Nvidia wants to comply with our export controls. I know they're a good citizen. But we also have to make sure that they can continue to compete and innovate and lead the world. And that's why we have a lot of back and forth with them to make sure we can achieve both goals.
Excellent. Now, the weakest part of our defense, I regard, and always have, is the military supply chain that goes through Taiwan. Now, I know you're an advocate for Taiwan. Taiwan Semi is a great friend of America, but Taiwan Semi does a lot of business with China. How can we be sure that Taiwan is not just a choke point, stop it as a choke point, and make sure that we're not hostage to Taiwan, as great a country it is, it's very close to China, and the Chinese think they own it?
Yeah. Well, we need TSMC to continue to expand in the United States, operate on our shores with American workers in the U.S. with a separate facility. But beyond that, we need other companies like Intel, our national champion, to make these chips on our shores. And really critically, Jim, we need the whole ecosystem. It's not just making the chips. It's the chemical companies, the wafer companies, the tooling companies. So that's what my mission is. You'll know a few years from now if we've been successful, if we have a large and deep ecosystem of leading edge manufacturing in the United States, plus wafer supply in the U.S., chemical supply in the U.S., talent supply in the U.S. That's what we're playing for. I'm not playing small ball. We want to play for the whole ecosystem, including talent and engineering talent, so that, as you say, we won't be dependent on that choke point.
All right, so let's speak to what's next. You've got a lot of money to give out. You've got some really terrific people. KKR, Goldman, these are who I was hoping to be involved. I'm sure some really excellent people who actually make chips. What's going to happen next for you and our country?
By the way, thank you for saying that. In less than a year, I've recruited 200 people to come work here full-time in the government, 6-7 days a week, from some of the leading tech firms, Wall Street firms, business firms in the country. They're all patriots, and they're doing it, because they're patriots. What comes next is a lot of announcements next year. So yesterday was our first announcement, super exciting. We're live, all systems go. January, February, March, April, look out for more announcements.
Well, Madam Secretary, we will look out for more announcements, and I am a patriot, too. So when I hear you say I should come work with you, I say to myself, I want to do what's right for the country because you're doing what's right for the country, and you're very inspirational to make everybody, left, right, doesn't matter, to work for this country. I want to thank you so much, U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. It is fantastic that you came on our show.
Thank you, Jim. Happy holidays.
Same to you. Mad Money's back after the break.
Coming up, will the greenback relax and give oil a break from heavy headwinds? Cramer goes off the charts with an approach you won't want to miss. Next. Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on X. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadMentions. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.